Today is Saturday, April 11th, 2026, and today is National Pet Day, which feels like one of those days where animals get appreciation for things they were already going to do anyway, like exist confidently and expect attention. Welcome to This Day in History from Wait, That's Random. I'm your host, C.L. Burns. Today in 1865, Abraham Lincoln gave what would become his final speech. The Civil War was effectively over, and the focus had shifted from conflict to Reconstruction. Lincoln addressed a question that was still unsettled. Who gets to participate in rebuilding the country? In the speech, he suggested limited voting rights for Black Americans, particularly educated men and those who had served in the Union Army. At the time, that idea was controversial. Even after the war, the structure of the country wasn't clearly defined. Winning a war doesn't determine what comes next. It only creates the opportunity to decide. And decisions made in that moment tend to shape everything that follows. What makes this moment especially striking is how close it sits to what happens next. Just 3 days later, Lincoln was assassinated. Which means this wasn't just part of a transition. It became his final statement on how he saw the future. And sometimes leadership doesn't end because of timing. It ends because someone decides it should. On April 11, 1951, President Harry Truman relieved General Douglas MacArthur of his command during the Korean War. MacArthur was one of the most well-known and respected military leaders in the world, but he had begun to publicly disagree with the administration's strategy. The conflict centered around control. Who sets the direction? Military leadership in the field or civilian leadership in government? Truman made the decision, and MacArthur was removed. In the United States, civilian leadership ultimately directs the military, but moments like this test that structure. Removing a high-profile commander during an active conflict isn't just a personnel change. It's a statement about where authority actually sits. And once that decision is made, it defines the boundary. And sometimes a mission doesn't fail at the beginning. It changes in the middle. On April 11, 1970, Apollo 13 launched from Kennedy Space Center. The mission was supposed to be routine, another step in the ongoing effort to explore the moon. The systems here were tested. The crew was prepared, and everything was operating as expected. Until it wasn't. 2 days into the mission, an oxygen tank exploded. Power dropped and systems began to fail. The mission shifted instantly from exploration to survival. The original plan no longer applied, and new problems required new solutions created in real time, with limited resources, limited power, and no margin for error. What followed was a series of decisions and adjustments that ultimately brought the crew back safely. The mission didn't go where it was supposed to, but it didn't end where it could have. And that's why Apollo 13 is remembered not for what it failed to do, but for how it adapted when things went wrong. If you step back and look at these moments together, something starts to connect. A speech outlines a future that won't be seen. A decision reinforces where authority sits, and a mission changes direction when the plan no longer works. Different situations, different outcomes, but each one shows how control is tested. Not when things are stable, but when they begin to shift. Anyway, those are a few things I ended up finding out when I was wandering through April 11th. Stop by tomorrow and we'll see what the next day decides to show us. If you want to know more about me or the work I do, you can find everything at waitthat'srandom.com. I'm C.L. Burns, and I appreciate you stopping by.